Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission recovered nearly $500 million in crime proceeds and secured over 4,000 convictions in 2023, marking its highest record since its establishment. The agency stated that part of the funds was reinvested in government projects. Nigeria ranked 140 out of 180 on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, has long battled endemic corruption. Besides cash, the EFCC seized over 931,000 metric tons of petroleum products, 975 properties, and company shares. That's a whole lot. The Commission continues its efforts to combat financial crimes in Africa's largest oil-producing nation. Well, joining me for more on this, I have Liborous Oshoma, lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to start with, the video we just watched. Let me just get your comment on that. It's one thing to want to have an open, policy, open door policy where we have companies come in and invest from various countries. It's another thing when it feels like these countries are probably not also encouraging local content development. I mean, I'd like you to speak to that a bit.
Yeah, thank you. If you hadn't asked me, I still would have talked about it. And the issues raised by Usifo are very, very germane because I have had cause to also challenge some of these issues on local content development in Nigeria. Situations where what they do to circumvent these processes will bring a lot of foreigners. Some of the salaries that are paid to these foreigners are humongous. There's even, allegations that some of these foreigners go back home because by virtue of the Export Promotion Council, Import Promotion Council Act, they are allowed to, since it is seen as direct foreign investment, some of these people's salaries are allowed to be taken out 100%. So some of these persons are paid their salaries and then they remit a portion back home to these people, the investors. So it all looks like it's a scheme. The EFCC also need to investigate this. These are allegations that are in the public domain that if, for example, now I am a foreigner and I'm earning and I'm paid $10,000 here, ordinarily the work that I'm doing is not more than $3,000 work. And I am paid $10,000 because they want to take out the money from Nigeria. So they need to increase my salary. So I'll be able to take out $7,000 for them because it is presumed to be my salary. So I take it out, I bank it in my country. Also, another way they do this thing, you employ a few Nigerians. They look like contractors, but in actual sense, they are not contractors. They just sit down somewhere to avoid taxes. They see these Nigerians sit down somewhere, they draw up invoices, they give the Nigerians to sign. Those Nigerians sign, but actually once the payment comes, it's usually in Forex, this payment comes and they are handed over back to these people in cash. So there are a whole lot of ways they circumvent this process. And the unfortunate part is that I am saying this with my full chest. Some of our lawmakers who are supposed to be oversighting these companies are also carried along, in this sharing. And so they always look the other way. So when they tell you that for oversight, what they do is that they collect their own share and look the other way. I had cause to petition in National Assembly some times ago on the promotion of local content. And what I saw was appalling. After the committee sitting, I was told that it was going to be a win-win situation. Little did I know that the companies were invited over the weekend before I came to the panel, and eventually they settled, and my petition was dead on arrival. Even despite my consistent cry in the media and the rest, nothing happened. And so, but it's good that the union, the Pengasin, is taking it up, and if something is not done, they had also promised that they can grant the entire industry. But it shouldn't just be a grandstanding, for them also to collect their own. Let them see this through. That's the only way Nigerians and Nigeria can actually benefit from all of this innovation. But we just leave it in the realm of law and oversight from the government would not achieve anything. It was similar push that led to all of the companies that he mentioned, led to the Nigerianness, of the companies that he mentioned. What do you call it? The office, the local content office is trying, but their effort is just like a drop in the massive ocean of this circumvention.
Right, it's my hope that things will be done in that regard, and of course we will grow Nigeria even as we allow DFIs to come in. Now let's go to the conversation for today. Nigeria's anti-graft agency, which of course is the EFCC, is reporting the recovery of $500 million in crime proceeds. All of that in 2024. Now talk to us, how significant is this in the fight against corruption?
If EFCC is recovering $500 million, I can tell you that $500 billion would have left the shore. And people will say I'm exaggerating. I don't know if this money leaves Nigeria, Nigeria will collapse. Is Nigeria, has Nigeria not already collapsed? The way we live, is that the way the normal human beings should live? When we have people scavenging our bins, our dustbin, Nigerians who are eating from dustbins, the way we live, is that the way citizens of a country like ours should live? The money in private hands in Nigeria today is a far cry compared to what EFCC has recovered. Kudos to them. Sometimes during the tenure of Ibrahim Magu, I had cause to interrogate this same recovery. EFCC giving their scorecard will come up with bogus recoveries like this, and will tell you the first time in the history. It's always the first time in the history of recovery. And you remember Emefiele, what was recovered from Emefiele alone, if you add it to, take it out of this, the properties also, the crude oil theft that we're talking about, and I also need them to add this issue of circumvention of our export promotion laws to the issues of recovery. Well, if we go deep down into the recovery of from political office and politically exposed people, you will cry for what is happening in Nigeria, because those waiting to steal in Nigeria are much more than those stealing. A lot of people see government office as an opportunity to compromise and steal theirs also. So that said, the EFCC, I'm happy that for the first time they are talking less. The chairman is talking less, and want to see more of action. We don't want all of those grandstanding. What actually, it's an operative, it's more of an operational body rather than a perceptive or media perception body. So we want to see more of operation, more of compliance with the laid down rules in terms of operation. And then it is Nigerians that will be coming out to give scorecard, and not this scorecard that we're seeing. But that does not mean I will not sit down here to tell you that they are not working, because really it is the fear of EFCC that is the beginning of wisdom. We are so ridicule our police to the extent that people will even tell you some matters in court. Some people will tell you let police prosecute them rather than EFCC prosecuting them. We have also seen them successfully prosecute a lot of people, especially some Yahoo boys. But we want to see more politically exposed prosecution that will send strong signal to the right quarters that stealing or corruption will not be condoned in Nigeria. Until we see that, we'll continue to give them kudos and encourage them and look at the particulars and specific. Another area which is very key, this blanket statement of that the money has been reinvested in infrastructure in the country. We want to see specific reinvestment. We want to say, look, this school was built from scratch to the end from funds recovered from so and so person by EFCC. The nebulous and generic reinvestment will not encourage Nigerians to support the anti-graft agency, because it's like, oh, you recover and then another person will steal the money. So basically, those are my key three areas that I need the EFCC to throw more light on and be more specific about.
All right, we'll come back to that, Mr. Oshoma. Right now, I need to join my colleague in Abuja, who is monitoring the National Association of Nigerian Students demonstration at the National Assembly. They are urging detractors to stop distracting lawmakers from carrying out their legislative duties. And at the same time, a group of women is also demonstrating alongside the NANS protesters. Both groups appear to share similar demands, with some holding placards describing suspended Senator Natasha Akpotu-Uduaghan as a serial blackmailer. And there you have the visuals. And of course, my colleague Sagir Ibrahim joins me for more on this. Hello, Sagir. Bring us up to speed with what's happening over there. Did you hear me?
Perpetua, it's an interesting day indeed. Today is supposed to be the first day of legislative activities. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Perpetua. Today is supposed to be the first day of legislative activities here at the National Assembly because the Senate and, of course, the House of Representatives is supposed to commence its first day of plenary today being Tuesday. But in what I can only describe as one of the fastest demonstrations that I've ever witnessed, because right now you can see what is left is simply security operatives who were stationed here to keep calm. 3 groups individually came here to demonstrate this morning. They had the same agenda to drive home the point that Senator Natasha Akpoti is, in fact, disrupting the activities, legislative activities as the case may be. Some of them have described her as a serial blackmailer. Others have described her as words that I honestly cannot say on TV because it's literally unprintable. However, their demands is simply simple. Senator Natasha Akpoti should stop interfering and stop going about harassing and accusing the Senate President of the sexual harassment allegations that she has been so doing in the past. Some of them even brought past allegations, which they say she's not a stranger to, because they accused her of this not being her first time, you know, of accusing people of sexual harassment. One even said at a point in time, her current husband, she accused him of same sexual harassment and also demanded settlement to the sum, you know, of 10 billion. However, this is all speculative and, of course, mere allegation. What is left right now is basically security operatives, men of the Department of State Services, men of the Nigerian Police Force. I think I saw men of the Nigeria Civil Defense Corps stationed somewhere around, and also men of the Nigerian Customs Service, I think. No, actually, they are actually soldiers. You know, they are here ensuring that the peace is kept, and of course, traffic and inflow into the National Assembly is not interrupted. Back to you, Perpetua.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, I was just going to ask you if you're not entertained already, because before now we had groups who were in support of Natasha, and now we're having other groups who are in support of, let's say, maybe the Senate, or let's say the Senate President. All of this happening. I mean, at the end of the day, it probably feels like we shouldn't take whatever is happening there with a pinch of salt. What do you think?
Well, the question of whether I've been entertained or not, Perpetua, you've been observing it just as I've been observing. I can only say that the issues are actually quite interesting, but we can only wait to see, you know, how it's going to turn out. Remember, it's an allegation of sexual harassment. Whether it is true or not, it is imperative upon the National Assembly and those who are at the helms of affairs to ensure that this allegation is investigated and brought to a logical conclusion. So I can only say that, well, we hope that all of this is brought to rest soon, because as it is, the Senate is indeed distracted by all of these things that's going on. Nigerians are distracted. Governance, as it were, seems, you know, to be taking a back seat in terms of the fact that Nigerians are focusing on this issue more than they are focusing on what their leaders are doing in terms of delivering good government to them. So to say it's entertaining, well, that would be the response that some might give. However, others are concerned
I think you probably didn't get me correctly.
As quickly as possible in the greater interest of the entire country.
But I think you probably didn't get me. I wasn't talking about the proceedings. I was talking about the people who are protesting, because today we see a group in support of this group, another group in support of another group coming tomorrow. That, of course, I mean, those are issues that should be addressed. Thank you so much, Sagir Ibrahim, for your time on the show today. All right, you're still watching Business Edge, and I still have right here with me Liborous Oshoma, lawyer and public affairs analyst. And again, just before we move on, I would like you to comment on what's happening. What are your thoughts?
Like I have said copiously, first and foremost, I agree with Segi that there are more important meats to chew in our country. We're talking about poverty, we're talking about diseases, we're talking about hunger. There are more important meat to chew. And the budget has just been assented to by the president, and Nigerians are not protesting on what should come to them, and you know, on the recurrent and capital expenditure and all of those things. But it is interesting, you know, protests, and very, very interesting protests for and against. Nigerians actually don't protest what concerns them. They protest, they love their oppressors, and they will do anything to defend their oppressor. So you see, for me, these are allegations of one oppressor against another oppressor. There are two issues here. One is what happened on the floor of the Senate on whether disbrigade the Senate with disrepute. That had been handled. The other issue is the allegation of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a very serious offense and should not be glossed over. But there are procedures. If I feel I've been harassed, there are procedures. I will be more professional about it than it's currently being handled. And what we do at the end of the day, we just create sensation out of the matter, like we always do. And maybe the rightness or wrongness of the issue will be swept under the carpet in due course, because very soon another sensational issue will happen, and then we'll gloss over this. Before it was in Natasha in Benin with Two-Face, and then in Natasha in Abuja now, and sexual harassment issue. And the Senate has referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics. So let's see if the Committee on Ethics will investigate it. But I also think that it is not just a matter to be left to the Senate. It's also a matter that should, if I feel that I've been sexually harassed and I have strong evidence, I can sue for damages. I can actually, it's a civil wrong, at the same time a criminal offense. So I think parties should pursue, the legal ambit to it, and let Nigerians breathe, and let Nigerians actually, focus on, the bigger meat to chew, while the courts should be allowed to deal with, allegations, criminal allegations, if need be. But the sensation that we are creating out of it is becoming, very comical, to the extent that today you see this group protest, tomorrow this group protest, and then, it's almost now pitching the men against the women, and some women who, if you speak against, they say, oh, you are not standing for a woman. A man, if you speak for, oh, why should you speak? So at the end of the day, it distracts from the core issues. And for me, what are the core issues? One, how the Senate should comport itself, and then two, if truly the allegations of harassment between members, how should it be dealt with? Absolutely. And all of those are the main issues, and once they are handled professionally, at the end of the day, to serve as a deterrent. But all of this noise will actually not create solutions to it.
You can say that again. Well, if you're just joining us, this is Business Edge, and we are looking at the EFCC saying that it has recovered $500 million and also secured 4,000 convictions in the year 2024. So, sir, let's go back to this conversation. You were talking about, how that we need to also see how much of these recoveries are made, especially from politically exposed people. But then again, I'm just curious, do you think there are enough measures actually to address these issues, to ensure that they do not even happen in the first place, before we then get to the point where EFCC is on their trail and trying to recover or not to recover one thing or the other? I mean, I'm talking about structural, maybe systemic things.
Yeah, there are no structural system in place, even though we can say that there are a few structural systems in place, like the single treasury account, and but despite the fact that you have the single treasury account, we saw the scandal that broke in the Minister of Power during Fashola's Minister of Power, and how approvals were made and monies were sent to individual accounts because according to them, for exigency, out of pocket expenses, and for because if the money will have to pass through the long process, the bureaucratic process of releasing funds, those money will not, those projects will not eventually be executed. What eventually became of this matter, they were swept under the carpet. Secondly, that also brings us to light on how, despite the clear provisions of the law, processes are circumvented to ensure that this money are still released without traces. And then also, secondly, you find out that in other societies, we're talking about budgets now, that, like I said, the budget has just been assented to by the president. Once the money is appropriated, once money is budgeted, it is deemed appropriated in other societies. But here, money, appropriated, you will still need to lobby for the funds to be released for what it is meant for. So when lobbying takes place, at the end, what is released actually will not be what will be used for the project. Also, the issues of over-invoicing have consistently, be a recurrent issue in public spaces. When we talk about invoicing, procurement department, how well do they, run these contract processes with the current market values? I have had costs. You can tell me, you can say I'm a man of many parts, and I agree. As a lawyer, I know little of almost everything. I've had costs also to be involved in challenging procurement processes in government sector. And I discovered to a large extent that sometimes the processes are circumvented. You can actually, be more successful in the bidding process commercially, financially, and technically. And at the end of the day, the contract is not awarded to you because it will be awarded to the person who will be able to bring out the money, and the project is haphazardly executed. A road, for example, that is supposed to be tarred. Does the EFCC have the capacity to go actually investigate this road and check the millimeters of granite that is supposed to be on that road? If what was quoted was 10 millimeters, at the end of the day, 3 millimeters is used, and then water wash off the road, like Rochas once told us that PDP introduced chemical rain. So, and then lastly, who oversights the National Assembly? National Assembly oversights every other department, ministries, and agency. But who oversights them? How are budgets, constituency projects, how are they funded and executed? So until we have, we use technology to plug loopholes and ensure that it becomes even more difficult to steal. This attitude of going after you steal, they go to recover from you. Like I said, you recover $500 million. What it means is that in Nigeria that I know and haven't been involved in so many things, what it means is that what would have gone, you are just recovering 10% of what had left the shop. And what was the cost of that recovery? How much did the EFCC spend to recover all of these things? We are also not aware. So the long and short is that we need to make stealing difficult. I am not impressed with, yes, we have recovered so much. Why was it possible to take that much, out of the public treasury in the first place? Look at the Chinese Chinese foreigners that were raided by EFCC sometimes last year. You ask yourself, so how is it possible for such a number of foreigners to occupy a house and be doing advanced fee fraud, employ Nigerians to be doing the same thing, under the guise of call center, without the immigration knowing, without all the relevant agency knowing? It took a tip-off to EFCC. Do you know the damage that would have been done? So we still need to go a long way, not just to have one EFCC that cannot be everywhere. We need to take it to the barest minimum, which is local government. The states EFCC that we should have agencies at the local level that will ensure that the loopholes are plugged. I listened to the I listened to the current governor of Edo State, where he alleged that local governments were taking out 800 million, 1.2 billion monthly from allocation meant for the local government to finance political parties. And I speak to you, it is still ongoing. So if this is ongoing, what will the EFCC, how will the EFCC, be able to recover all of this money in the long run? You will take 800 million, and then when you are called, you can just give 200 million and they tell you go and see no more.
All right, thank you so much, Liborous Oshoma. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for commenting on 3 issues. I mean, that's a very good one. Thank you so much once again.